remove the wheel, use a 19mm socket, take the lug nuts off. Remove the wheel. I'm going to take the axle nut off, use a 32mm socket. We're going to take the lower strut bolts out. For this vehicle, it happens to be a 14mm wrench I'm going to use and a 15mm socket for the top bolt, but then the other bolt is going to be an 18 wrench and an 18 socket. And just make sure the caliper hose is out of the way. Take that bolt out. If you have to, you can take this caliper hose, retainer, or grommet off of the bracket. Just slide that out of the way. Pop it out. Now we can separate the knuckle from the strut and just slide the knuckle out a little bit. Give the axle a tap from the front. Just make sure there's not too much tension on the brake hose. And slide the axle out, just like this. Just going to use a bungee cord just to prevent the whole knuckle from sliding too far out and ruining the brake hose. Just wrap it around. Right next to the transmission, on the passenger side, we want to go in between the axle and the transmission, and we're just going to pry out with a pry bar. And you might lose some fluid, so just be aware. And just grab the axle and slide it out. And there it is. Now slide the new one in place. Slide it right into the transmission. Just going to use a dead blow hammer, or you can use a rubber mallet. Just give it a tap. Tap it in. Make sure it's all the way in so it clicks in. Pull the spacer off the old one and just slide that on the new one. Just like, I'll just take that bungee cord off and slide the axle in place. Go through the hub bearing. Now slide the strut into the knuckle. Get that lined up. And get the bolt started. Get the lower bolt started. If you're really struggling to get this bolt in because of that brake hose, you could take the caliper bolt out right here and just tip it out a little bit just to get that in. But otherwise, you should be all set. Get the bolts in. And put the nuts on. Now I'm going to torque the lower strut nuts and bolts to 66 foot-pounds. Now put the axle nut on. Now I'm going to take a pry bar in between the studs. That's going to prevent the hub from spinning. Now I'm going to torque the nut to 111 foot-pounds. Now there is a sequence to this. After that, we're going to move the pry bar over here. And then we have to loosen it 45 degrees. 45 degrees, right about there. And then we're going to torque it again to 184 foot-pounds. Take the brake hose bushing and just slide that back into the bracket. Out of the way if you took that off. Put the wheel on, line it up, get the lug nuts started. Now I'm going to torque the lug nuts to 100 foot-pounds in a cross pattern to tighten the wheel down evenly. And just go around again, double check.